I was born in a working class family, as in like we took water from like the public water tap to save on water bills, and my family spent those money to send me to Hagwon, despite the fact that we couldn't even pay for water properly, so that we would be ahead in terms of education.
Now you got a whole country doing this.
I went to school around like 9 a.m. and I got out of school around 3. And I had like quick snack, and right after that I went to Hagwon, like around 4 or 5.
So it's like you went to 2 schools in one. Mm-hmm. See, this is like a friend of mine, Harry, who teaches at the Hagwon. So did you, and on the weekends?
Yes, on Saturday.
On Saturday?
You can't take the stats of an SAT and say that they're going to get somewhere in life, because people who score 1300s might not apply themselves later on.
Okay, here, hang on though. Dude, I scored 17 on the ACT. That was the 51st percentile. And talk about how smart you all are. You're paying a professor who scored 17 on the ACT exam to teach you something. That's pretty ignorant if you want to ask me, but whatever. Dude, don't do the individuals. Go back to what Lori said. Look at the groups.
I would always result to it's not fair. Like,
can you say really clearly, like, this is why it's not fair?
I don't think it's fair because it feels like you're penalizing people for not having money. Like, if the excuse is like, oh, my parents' money got me tutors, like in his case, like the example he used at least, then it's like, okay, my parents couldn't afford tutors, I didn't get the score, so now what do I do?
Mm-hmm. But now what do we do? Say what a Hagwon is?
Hagwon is basically a school. Another school you go to, private school, right after public education.
Meaning late in the day?
Late in the day, usually until like around 10 or later sometimes as well.
Uh-huh. So you were there, at 7 years old? You were going to Hagwons?
I came to States around when I was 7 or 8, and I was already going to Hagwons at that age of like 6 or 5.
And you were studying till, like, you go to school all day, and then you go to a cram school.
Yeah,
and
that's when I started learning English, actually, at the age of 5.
Wait, and so you're going till how late at night?
I do not quite remember, but I remember the sun was down by the time I got home. By the time I arrived home, so it must have been at least until like 6 or 7 at the age of 6.
So Koreans, like those of you who are Korean, you know this is serious. Like, there's a reason that Koreans are so highly educated, because when you go to Korea and you go to, Lori and I went and gave a talk at one of the Hagwons with our, and it was serious, man. Yeah.
So, to elaborate on how Koreans take Hagwon seriously, I was born in a working class family, as in like we took water from like the public water tap to save on water bills, and my family spent those money to send me to Hagwon, despite the fact that we couldn't even pay for water properly, so that we would be ahead in terms of education.
Now you got a whole country doing this. Right? And that whole country is bringing that here, right? You got Indians who are coming here with that, and Chinese who are coming here with that, and Japanese who are coming here with that. This is serious. And people here think like, oh yeah, I study hard. I studied really hard to get into one of the top schools in New York City. Like, man, you don't even know what studying hard is. And you got these people that are studying hard. You got little kids that are studying till 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night. And Ichi, you went to Hagwon? Yeah. Wait, here, hang on. How late? Wait, can you get Yellow? Can you get Ichi on? Wait, how late were you studying at night at the Hagwon?
Sorry, what did you say?
How late were you? Were you up studying every night?
Every night, like until 10.
Till 10?
Yeah.
What time did you start in the morning?
I went to school around like 9 a.m. and
Yeah.
I got out of school around 3. And
Yeah.
I had like quick snack. And right after that, I went to Hagwon, like around 4 or 5.
So it's like you went to 2 schools
Yeah.
in one. See, this is like a friend of mine, Harry, who teaches at the Hagwon. So did you, and on the weekends?
Yes, on Saturday.
On Saturday? And then when did you start?
Around 10, 11?
When you were 10 years old?
Oh, no, like 10 a.m.
No, how old were you when you...
Like 3rd grade.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so listen, yeah, this is serious.
How many other people in here have gone?
Yeah, how many Koreans are in here? Did you go to Hagwons? Yeah? Everyone go to Hagwons? Dude, yeah? Of course you do. You do that, man. Bro, did you go to any after school programs? Bro, any after school programs? No? Bro, anything at all? Anything, bro? No. Yeah, Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts or something? Baseball? The percent of test takers, the percent of people in this country who take the SAT and score 1,300 or above, okay? Everybody who scores 1,300 or above, 38% of them have parents in the top 0.1%. 38% of all the people that scored above 1,300 have parents in the top 1%. And look at the top one. Look at between the top 1% and the top 1%. Add those 2 columns up, and then look down here. 2.4% of all the people that scored 1,300 or above were in the bottom 20%. Okay? Look, how fair is that?
Like, when you say top, like, 1%, you mean, like, wealth-wise, right?
Yeah, wealth-wise. Yeah, income. No, income. Look at these numbers. You got 38%. This is probably 30%. So almost 70% of the students that scored 1,300 or above in the United States I think these numbers are from 2021, were from top 1% income earning families.
Yeah, that's not like the most fair
Why not?
thing.
What's not fair?
But like, okay, so like, I'm assuming, I'm taking into account, like, with their wealth, they're using it for, like, putting their kids in, like, extra programs or, like, maybe, like, a tutoring thing or something.
Yeah.
When, like, people who don't earn as much are not getting that. And, like, or, like the bottom percentages, like, they're not getting that
yeah, but
luxury.
we already said, if we follow Colin, that these people right here, they worked really hard to be able to send their kids to the best situation. It happens in Korea too. If you have more money, you go to better Hagwons. It's the same thing. It's true there. If you don't have any money, you can't afford any Hagwons. I mean, you can leverage yourself, but what's not fair about that? When do you want to go? How, Lori, is that the question? How fair is this? Like, what do you think about it? Come up with a.
I feel Are you going to say something, Archie? Are you going to say something?
It might not seem fair, but people who come from but people who don't have as high stat scores doesn't mean they're not going to get anywhere in life. Think of it this way: Kevin Hart, look where he is now. He had a 300 on his stat score, or 500.
But don't go with.
So it's like
don't do
you can't take
Yeah.
you can't take the stats of an SAT and say that they're going to get somewhere in life, because people who score 1300s might not apply themselves later on.
Okay, here, hang on though, dude. I scored 17 on the ACT. That was the 51st percentile. And talk about how smart you all are. You're paying a professor who scored 17 on the ACT exam to teach you something. That's pretty ignorant if you want to ask me, but whatever. Don't do the individuals. Go back to what Lori said. Look at the groups. Look at the larger groups. Is that the question of fair? What's the question you would ask?
when you look at those numbers and you're thinking about fairness,
Yep.
just what is your assessment of those numbers?
I think it is fair because it's the parents who paid and worked for their kids to go to these schools to do better on the SATs. I feel like that's fair.
So if you basically you said it before, if you get a certain score, that's what it is. It's fair.
I went to tutorist schools too. I didn't score at 13. So it could just be like I know people who didn't go to the tutor schools and they got like much higher than 13.
So you're saying, okay, that's fair because this is the idea that what score you achieve is what you're going to use in your world to indicate what is fair, right? Yeah. I mean,
All right. That's fair.
that's what we're looking for is to try to figure out what is fair.
Yeah.
And you're like, however you get however you get the score, getting the score is what we're looking for.
Yep. Arjun, you were going to say something.
Like, I do understand what he's saying about like the whole tutoring thing and all that, but like, if I could just take a step back, like we are living in an age where like the internet exists, and like for me, right? Like, I mean, I'm not top 1%, or like I'm not. Like, I'm like in the middle, like middle class. It's like, I didn't go to any like tutoring thing or anything, but like YouTube, like all these like free open source things, like we could just use that to like, that, like you don't need, like, and like he's right. Like, I mean, a lot of people who are going through tutoring, like some people's like their parents are putting them in there. They don't want to go through it, or like some people do or whatever.
All right, there you go. The internet is, and if you can't afford a computer, go to your local library and get on a computer. When you see, your question was when you look at these and you think about equity and fairness, what do you think?
I would always result to it's not fair. Like,
Can you say really clearly, like, this is why it's not fair?
I don't think it's fair because it feels like you're penalizing people for not having money. Like if the excuse is like, oh, my parents' money got me tutors, like in his case, like the example he used at least, then it's like, okay, my parents couldn't afford tutors, I didn't get the score, so now what do I do?
But now what do we do? Like, what do we do? There are only so many seats. So what do the rest of us do? Because now we got to figure out a system here. We got to deal with the fact that, like, what do we do? Do we tell Colin down here, like, yeah, you know what, man, why don't you go to you're not getting in, we're not going to bring you into Penn State. I mean, what do you do with all these people? What do you do with all these people down here? I mean, the people who aren't scoring as high. What do you do with that?
I'm not sure, but like affirmative action was an attempt. It wasn't perfect. I think we can all agree it wasn't perfect, but it was an attempt to find a solution until we find a better one.
And what, Colin, you were going to respond?
Like, I mean, like, I do understand, like, where you're coming from, like, totally. And I feel like, personally, like, if I wasn't, like, if I didn't, like, go through, like, the college process, like, with this, I would be like, yeah, like, it makes sense. It's, like, it is an attempt and all that, but, like, going through the college process and, like, as, like, person of, like, Asian descent or whatever, I'm like, oh, like, I'm, like, kind of getting screwed, like, not screwed over, but, like, yeah, like, I mean, I don't know if it's ego or like self, like whatever, but it's like, yo, like I did put through work. If someone's just gonna get a boost based on like whatever, like that, like low key.
Dude,
that doesn't feel fair. That's not fair.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
To me personally.
Well, to many Asians, this is one of the reasons that Asians moved forward and helped push this lawsuit forward, because you got people like G here, and Yiji, and so many other people who were working, and going to the tutoring and one thing after another and studying, burning the midnight oil and waking up at 5 in the morning. And I know some of you say, like, yeah, I studied hard too. You didn't study hard like that. You're not going till 10 or 11 or 12 o'clock at night and then going on Saturdays from the age of 7 all the way up through graduating high school. And so how is that fair? Like, That's
Yeah, it's not fair.
yeah. I mean, it wouldn't seem like it. You're penalizing. Here's the BA degree, and your parents are poor. That's what your bachelor's degree on average is worth. This one. And if your parents are not poor, that's on average what your BA degree is worth. And if you have a high school degree, that's all, you don't go to college, and your parents are not poor, that's what it's worth. And if your parents are poor, that's what it's worth. So even if you get a college degree, that means if I look out in this classroom and I say, those of you who are poor, who come from poor families, on average, if we put you all together in a single group, and we do the same thing with universities across the country, and we put all of you together who come from poor families, and your families are poor, your degree is going to be worth much less over the course of your lifetime. Your earnings are going to be much less than all of you who come from wealthy families.
I don't really like this chart in general because it doesn't show what colleges everyone went to for the people who took statistics. It's where they went to like for work after, because you could go to college that's good and you're poor and you could still choose a job that you want to go into, but it doesn't pay as much.
Yeah.
So
which is fair.
I don't like the statistics, but it doesn't show exactly what it is because. Yeah, so
the idea then is one thing that comes into play is like, well, it's not just going to college, it's the college you go to.
Not just that, but it's also the career you go into after the college, because you could be poor and you could go for a career that pays well.
Okay. Anyone else?
There's also an area where it doesn't, depending on the career you go for.
All right. Do you have a thought about that? Louis.
I want you to connect the conversation you all had about diversity, equity, and inclusion with...
Yo, hang on. Yo.
Just as a way to finish this conversation, what is this conversation compared to the one about DE&I?
Well,
because it feels...
The problem with DE&I is we're trying to have these conversations that are incredibly complex, just like what Colin just said, what all three of you have been saying. We're trying to talk about these issues, and we say, hey, we're going to have these DE&I programs at our university or in our corporation or organization, or I work for the Red Cross, and we're going to do these DE&I initiatives. What does that mean? Because when we dig into it, and we think we're going to deal with equity, it's so complex. Like, what is fair? What is not fair? What's fair to one person is unfair to somebody else. What's fair to one group is not fair to another group. So we're going to be wrestling constantly over how to think about these issues. And there's nothing that anybody said that is a problem. It's like, yeah, it's fair, it's not fair. I like the fact that you all are saying these many different things, and we're really wrestling with how this is and what do you make sense of? Yeah. Anyway, let's say round of applause for you all. Awesome.